if you're not sure how you feel, clue into your heart center and then just see what the feeling is there, because the heart center will always tell you the truth. If you're not sure, I just say it and then we just do it. You just clue into that heart center. And it feels to me, when I clue into that heart center, I'm still feeling that really bubbly, sparkly energy. It's like the potential is geared up and ready to go. So that tells me it's probably time for a healing. So let's see where we need to focus our big, bright collective, where we need to focus our attention in order to promote optimal evolution and catch those evolutionary lessons before they catch us. That goes in as the sun. The Vedic word is sankalp, but it means the seed of the healing. It means the initial intention for the healing, offering it into the silence of being. That what healing do we need to do in order to establish our ability as individuals to always catch the next step of evolution, essentially before it catches us, to always be able to see it in time, then we can prepare, then we can address it when it's at a delicate level. When you address it at a delicate level, it requires far less energy to address the lesson. If we ignore the lesson and let it bubble up to the surface and hit us in the head, then it can take a lot of work and a lot of attention and so forth. So, oh, very nice. So, remember yesterday I was saying that the causal level of the field of creation has templates and blueprints and forms like that. Yeah, someone's saying we can bounce between individual and collective, and that's exactly what we're doing when we're doing energy healing. We have that intention, and I didn't choose that intention. That intention kind of chose us, essentially, but it feels right, right? So I was asking, what would be the intention? And there it is. So we drop it in. And then we know that all the universe is evolving all the time. And so the point where tension is created in the individual system is when the universe is forging ahead and some part of ourselves is not keeping up with that process. Because, time and tide wait for no man. So if the universe is forging ahead, we need to keep our finger on the pulse of it, right? We need to know, okay, where is the next level of that movement, so that I'm aligning with that. And if there's some area of weakness or I don't completely understand what's going on with it or something, then I can work with that, so that as the universe is continuing to turn and turn and turn, that I'm with that turn, I'm going with that flow of the turn. In other words, harnessing or garnering the support of natural law, of the universal evolution that's taking place, like riding in the wake of that movement. All right, so the alignment occurs in the cord of light. And our cord of light is like a big, that's also at the astral level, it's like a big thread or worm. It's a big wormy that goes through the physiology from the top to the bottom and connects to source at the top, the infinite divine being, and it connects to all the physical wisdom of the manifest field through the other, down through the pelvic floor and down into Mother Earth, and from Mother Earth to the sun and the stars and the other planets and like that. So we have infinity at both ends, and it really is the same infinity. It's just that we're coming at it from two different perspectives, right? The perspective out the top of the head is pure, unmanifest divine being, and the perspective out through the pelvic floor is manifest, but then bigger, bigger, bigger wholenesses until we've reached the big wholeness. And there is definitely a direct connection between that spectrum of ego, which we could say, in a sense, we experience more through that direct connection to source, versus the physiology that goes along with the various expressions of ego along that spectrum from individual to universal, there are different levels of the physiology. I probably should unpack that just a little bit, because it goes with a comment of bouncing between individual and collective. If we're catching the imbalance before it becomes physical, that means we're catching it when it is more abstract, right? And that means that the seed of the imbalance, or the area where the imbalance is breaking into our awareness, is a more abstract level of understanding of self. So it's not like ground into the physical form. Ground into the physical form is individual ego, small ego. But this spectrum that goes up to Brahman, or para-Brahman, correlates with larger forms of the physiology. So when we're doing ancestral healings, for example, or we're doing healings for past lives, that means we're working at more of a collective level of being and of ourselves, and we're working at a more abstract level of ego. And there are levels that correlate with, like, the solar system. And sometimes when we're positioning sense of self in that spot that balances, there's always a sweet spot for any action that you need to take. There's a sweet spot of balancing your point of perspective between absolute totality, which cares nothing for anything because everything's perfect, and individuality that's completely invested in everything is a big deal, right? That's like the small ego, everything's a big deal. So there's a sweet spot in the middle where we have access to all those infinite resources, all that huge, vast expansion of our eternal being, that's all the blueprints and all the templates and all knowledge and all that broad perspective. So resource, and balancing that against that principle of caring enough to do something about what's going on. So we need to find that sweet spot. And it's going to change. That's why we need to have flexibility to move along that spectrum. And that's why we had a healing for that yesterday. But I do feel that a little more healing in that area will continue to support this intention. Flexibility is born of heart wisdom. So everyone's receiving a download of heart wisdom right now. We're just letting that heart wisdom soak into the body, and it's definitely soaking in from the expanded form of self, right? Heart wisdom. And it feels like it's kind of humming or scintillating, like a note, like a resonance, like a song, like a song. And by allowing the physiology to directly integrate that sound, that resonance, in its unmanifest form, we stabilize it in the subtle field of the physiology, which includes not just the physical body, but it includes our cosmic body as well. If I sang a song, if I sang a note, something like that, that note also would radiate out through my room and the walls, and it's already doing that, and go out and into the atmosphere and out and hit the planets and, touch the planets and so forth. But the silent song, it speaks to levels of manifestation of this universe, very subtle manifestations, which we don't have a measure for. That's all new information coming in right now. You guys. Subtle manifestations of the universe, all that dark matter and dark energy, those levels of universal function absolutely thrill to the silent song, the song that we don't necessarily hear, but we can produce, and we know we produce. Remember yesterday, we talked a lot about creating a safe healing space. The safe healing space is like a song of healing. It's like a resonance in the heart that creates a condition for the whole body that allows all the functions of the body that heal, that self-refer, right, that fold back and heal us. It allows them all to function at their maximum capacity. I feel as if we're going back to our dear hearts who had the anxiety, because it's a little bit, there's an innocent element, I should say, to energy healing, that we're essentially creating a condition, or we're setting up a situation in the body that allows us to feel safe and trust and resourceful. It supports the access to the source of creation so that we have that resourcefulness going on. And then that condition is perfect for the body to pick up its own healing capacity and to run with it. So we're just creating, yes, the silent song, beautiful harmonies and melodies, yes. That's what we're doing. It's kind of silent, but it's heard. It's heard at that causal level of creation, and it helps to restructure the foundations upon which emotional, mental, etheric, and physical are able to function. And I wanted to put most of the emphasis of today's session on these denser levels of the physiology, because we didn't really touch on them yesterday. So another thing that I'd like to point out is there's a tendency, because of this illusion, that somehow, because the body is sort of earthy, it's not divine, to use the denser levels of ourself as a kind of repository for stress. And also because the physical form, it doesn't change as quickly. I mean, inside in our awareness, we can move like lightning speed, right? Faster than the speed of light. We've talked about that. But the physiology, it takes its time. It's got its little cycles that it's manifesting for us and presenting to, to us. And so those, it's one of my cycles. Anyway, it's got these cycles that it's bringing up to the surface so that we can see the wholeness of creation slowed down into its constituent parts and appreciate it. The body is divine. And one of the things I'm experiencing here is that the part of this download for the heart, this big heart wisdom download, is illustrating, or it's like it's bringing, or integrating, I could say it's integrating. It's bringing in this deep wisdom of the divinity of the physiology, and also its potential to change very quickly if it needs to. Because we know sometimes that can happen. We know, for instance, with spontaneous remissions, sometimes people have of like terrible illnesses, that really quickly they can go from being terribly ill to being well. It can happen. Wishing that for everyone. So the constraints of time are being appreciated as an illusion at the physical level, which is really good. Because what that does is it opens up physical potential to move or to transform the body as needed very quickly. Once the lesson is learned, right, you catch it early. And then whatever changes the body was going to have to go through, if it slowed it down and resisted and everything, you get a lot of physical pain and discomfort. But if you catch the problem early and you work through the karma, then what happens is the body can go through a change that's a healthful change in the direction of its full potential.